Hey Internet, we're back to mythicism in this little series. So the most important and controversial point, and Richard Carrier actually calls this the only real evidence for historicity in his opinion, is the apparent naming of James as James the Lord's brother in an authentic letter of Paul from a secular historical perspective, which is that if that means Jesus had a brother, that's a reasonable historical link to a historical Jesus. And Carrier argues that the early Christians were all, quote, brothers of the Lord, and that James being named as the Lord's brother is more likely a special cultic title, especially if you say brother of the Lord rather than brother of Jesus. He argues we have lots of early references to the brothers of the Lord, cultic concept, and nothing in terms of biological brother info. The early Christians clearly have a brothers of the Lord thing going on in any event, regardless of where you come down on this issue in the debate. And Carey argues that they would need to make a more clear distinction. Hence, the scales overall on this particular point of evidence may actually tip away from bio-brotherhood, or it is at least a draw on such a crucial bit of evidence for historicity. And all this may sound like nitpicking to historicist ears, and truly that Jesus existed as a historical figure is not at all an improbable claim and requires very little justification. It's virtually a hair-trigger claim, with almost anything being good enough evidence for it. Lots of historical people have zero evidence of their direct existence. So mythicism gets its traction from other less popularly known religious mechanisms at play in that culture at that time. And these must be at least considered as possible alternative explanations that may better fit the apparent trajectory of our layers of evidence from the early Christian writings. And here's my general summary of that kind of evidence, just for a helpful orientation. But I would definitely go read Carrier's book detailing the topics and their historical justifications, or watch the videos of him doing that on YouTube or something. First point, dying and rising, celestial savior gods undergoing an equally celestial passion and providing personal salvation to adherents is a definite pre-Christian religious trend, despite how often such evidence is popularly misrepresented, such as with Bill Maher. Mystery religions abounded throughout the Roman Empire, and Christianity turns out to just be a Jewish version of them. Next point, a contemporary Jewish philosopher, Philo, tells us of a belief in a celestial high priest, like Jesus is described in the New Testament book of Hebrews, who shares many unlikely characteristics with the early Christian descriptions of Jesus as a pre-existent divine being. If this is a thing Jews are into, some Jews, then early Christianity might have started out here with hallucinations of a celestial high priest and tea leaf reading their holy scriptures to guide and interpret what such things must have meant. Next point, the unredacted original version of the Ascension of Isaiah, not present in the New Testament, obviously, and not very well known by people, has a Jesus crucified by demons in the celestial realm above the firmament. And this serves as the basic original mythicist gospel model, and is bizarrely compatible with Paul's description of the earthly-sounding core elements of the descent, incarnation in flesh, crucifixion, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. And when you look closely at how Paul puts things in the bizarre details, the bizarre details actually make more sense in mythicist terms. But those are, specific debates that you have to go on the back and forth with. Next point, another trend of religion making was the giving gods fake earthly biographies, such as Romulus, who was supposed to be a divine being, but then was given a biography as a historical ancient king who founded Rome. This may well be what Mark is consciously doing, and none of the rest of the Gospels can be shown to be definitely independent of him. Mark even has the cryptic message of Jesus preaching parables to outsiders and then telling his disciples what the parables mean in secret, seemingly indicating, hint, hint, wink, wink, that's what the whole Gospel of Mark actually is. Note, John actually goes out of his way to contradict Mark and say, I preach nothing in secret. This makes biblically inerrant Jesus a liar, or it shows early Christian mythmakers contradicting each other and struggling with their sketchy messaging. Next point, mundane things are just as easy to make up as extraordinary things, and plenty of Jesus-like historical figures existed to serve as off-the-shelf templates for side-loading an earthly Jesus into fictional narratives that were then believed as historical. This is the closest to a historical Jesus that we get from Carrier, which is basically the just historical Jesus, but he's not the founder. He's just side-loaded for historical flavor, I guess. So, taking all those things in mind, if those are real categories of explanation abounding in that particular cultural context, considering additional contemporary mechanisms of religion making takes the fuzzy light case for historical Jesus and weighs more in favor of a celestial Jesus turned into historical fiction and later believed to have always been historical. So anyway, that's how I understand the overall scheme of things, and those are the things obviously that are up for debate in and of themselves.